Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Networking at Noon. Super excited to be here today, and I am joined all the way from Texas. We have Judy Young visiting with us today. Greetings, Judy.
Hey, very nice to be here. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so very much. So Judy is one of our Referrals for Life community members, and she definitely is all about the education because she actually works. She's a college and an MBA admissions coach, as well as an Ivy League graduate herself. So, Judy, tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, how you help people with the whole college thing.
Yes. So what I do for students who are applying to college and families of students applying to college is I help them understand how do they become the best applicant they can? How do they stand out in the process? Where do they want to go? So I'm all about making sure they have lots of options and that they get to a great school where they're going to thrive and do well in their chosen career. So that's what I do. I'm a coach and a mentor and a supporter and a cheerleader all in one.
So what exactly do you do to help them get into college?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I see it all about creating options. And what that means is if you understand what colleges will be looking for and you start early, which I recommend, then you have better options, right? So now most people understand, yes, I need good grades, I need a test score. What about all the other factors? How do extracurriculars play into that? And how should I plan for that? What are some issues around colleges now? Give you a quick tip. Look at, did you demonstrate interest? Did you come here? Did you visit? Did you visit virtually? Did you show some interest in the college? So it's helping them understand what will be looked at and also understand what's a good fit for them, right? Like, where should you go to school? Where will you be happy? Don't just follow the crowd. Think about where you're going to spend 4 years and that's going to become home for you. So where will you thrive and be successful? So that's what I help them do. And then of course I help them with all the nuts and bolts of how do you complete the application? Yes, you want to go to a great school, what's involved in the application? How should you contact schools? What score do you need? What classes should you take if you're starting early enough? So I help them build a strong profile, figure out where they should go, and then help them with the logistics of how to get there. And then making the decisions around financial aid too, of course. So I'm there hand-holding all the way along the line.
Gotcha. So when does the process start? Like when or I guess when would be, how old is my kid when I reach out to you and say, hey, let's get to work on this?
That's a great question. So, the sweet spot for most people is probably starting junior year. If you're on a, beginning of junior year. So, I would say once you've taken Algebra 2, typically you're ready for the dreaded test. Right. So for some people, if they're on an accelerated track, that could be, summer after sophomore year. Truthfully, the more selected the school you're looking at, probably the earlier you would like to start is the best answer. And the reason for that is you want to understand, what are going to be the important factors along the way, right? So if you're really aiming very high, for some people that could be 8th grade, so you understand how to hit the ground running in high school. So it depends on where you're aiming. But for most people, the sweet spot's going to be junior year or maybe the summer after sophomore year. It's good time. If you're an athlete, I will add this in because I also do athletic recruiting, then you're looking at sophomore year. It's no longer just junior year. You want to be looking at that early sophomore year. We would start sophomore spring. Everything is moving, a little earlier these days.
Gotcha. So how long?
Birth yet, though, I think people if you're trying to get into high schools, that may be starting at birth. You may have to sign up, but that's not my department. I'm not serious. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding on the high school thing. There are high schools where you actually are like, okay, I'm pregnant. Let me get you a school. It is that crazy.
So how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, so I've had my business this is my 5th year, but I've actually was doing it for several years prior to that. So.
And what made you decide to do this? What got you into it?
Yeah, so I grew up in Jamaica. Now you're asking the big question. I grew up in Jamaica. I got here for what I thought would be my senior year. It ended up being my sophomore year, so I call it my Eddie Murphy story. I had no idea what was involved or that I could be rejected, actually. I thought I would just get in. But anyway, I got to a great school, but I didn't understand the process. So once I had my own children, I thought, I should really understand how this works. And I loved it and it was interesting. And equally importantly, I realized, it's about information, right? So I also work pro bono with a lot of kids, and it's just great to see really smart kids thrive with the right information. So that's why I do what I do. I love seeing kids be successful and, of course, young professionals be successful, getting back to top MBA programs as well.
Gotcha. So about how much of your business is helping, the kids get into college versus helping the professionals get into the MBA?
About half and half.
Oh, okay.
About half and half. So
is it hard for the professionals to get into the MBA programs, or is it certain programs that are harder than others?
Top 10, very, very difficult. Yes, correct. But you can follow the money. That's where a lot of people are trying to get to. I mean, which is very different from if you're just doing a part-time MBA locally, of course, right?
Gotcha.
So
I guess it depends on the name recognition you're looking for, huh?
Correct. Follow the money.
Gotcha. So when you're not working, what is it you like to do for fun? Because, all work and no play makes you a dull person. And a descendant of our goal is amazing business and spectacular life. So what does that play non-work time look like for you?
So I just got back from Barbados, so that feeds right into what I love to do. So if it's up to me, I would be talking to you from Barbados or somewhere somewhere on a beach. So I love to travel. I grew up traveling a lot, actually, with my family, that's a whole nother story. That was absolutely awesome. But when I'm home, I'm spending time with family. I am avoiding any work that my husband thinks I should be doing.
Is that like around the house work that he's trying to get you to do?
I see him coming around the corner and I try to be on Zoom.
That's a really good trick. Hey, honey, you're not listening to this, are you? He's like in the other room. I'm like, oh, that could be a good way to do it. Just pretend to be working.
You never want to ask the Jamaican for these little tips and tricks. Never.
So what did you learn at today's networking at noon? Well, if you don't want to do housework, just pretend you're working. Or I guess you could actually be working, and that would probably help you make more money too.
You just keep a screenshot up. Okay, I'm busy. I really am. Don't go Zoom. Keep it as it is, where they're seeing my background. Keep it that way, Tiffany. I'm writing a note to myself. I'm only dealing with people who don't have a virtual background from now on. And another good way to avoid, things to be done around the house is to go play with the dog, which, he's always up for that. As long as I give him a high protein dog treat, he's easily maneuvered.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a dog from Thailand. How about that? He is a Thai Ridgeback, and they're very cute, but their claim to fame is that they can take down king cobras. We used to have two, one of them passed away, but they're very interesting. They actually, if they have a target, it's classic, like a raptor thing, right? Like one's in the front barking and the other one's like going for the jugular to the side. It's horrendous, but interesting to watch.
Well, I mean, when they're bred to have that, and it totally makes sense. I know there's tons of snakes in Thailand, so it makes sense that they're bred to get the snakes.
You generally would not know that now. Now he's like, "Where's my high protein dog food?" Just
because they're bred for it doesn't mean that they're doing it anymore.
Right. Okay, look, I'm living in upscale Houston now, so I'm leaving that behind. But actually, the other very cool thing is I can't think of the movie, but there's this movie where anyway they run in each other's tracks in perfect semicircles. It's really crazy. So we have a perfect semicircle, not so much now, but I mean when there's multiple of them, from here to like they have a little pen in the backyard. So from our front door, there's a perfect semicircle, and I don't care how you cut the grass. It's like, what's that movie? You remember this crazy movie, Circles? Or anyway, there was a weird movie with these semicircles, but that's how it is in our yard because they have a perfect one there, and then up to our neighbor's back fence. I mean,
interesting.
They run in a perfect semicircle, but they run in each other's tracks so that predators will think they're, a whole pack of them. So interesting. Yeah, they're super smart dogs. Actually, it's a funny story. Now that we're going completely off topic, but
that to me is what I love about networking at noon is we're going to ask you the questions we're going to ask you, but we get to learn new and fun things.
Okay.
And I love learning about new breeds of dogs and the crazy things they do.
Fun. So when we had two, like I said, they're very smart. So anyway, we must have run inside for a phone call or something. We were trying to train them. So one of them's on a leash and, the other was not. So the guy who wasn't on the leash grabbed the guy on the leash and started walking around the yard. And I wish we had a video because the look on his face was like, I know you have my leash. So technically you have to be in charge, but this doesn't seem right. So it was just one of those moments, those dog moments. I was like, oh, wow. Anyway, we can get back to, but that was funny. They're funny dogs.
All right.
It really does.
So we've learned a little bit about you and your business, and we've talked a little bit about what you like to do for fun. Ascentive Tampa is one of our sponsors here at our Networking at Noon show, and I know you're part of the Referrals for Life community. You just got involved this summer, the
Yes.
spring. And so I'd love to ask you to share with the watching audience out there, what has being a part of Ascentive been able to create for you?
So I'm a big believer in referrals. And, I've gotten much busier now, as I told you, since I'm, going more international. But just reaching out to people, I mean, it's amazing how much business that has generated for me. So it's the consistency, all the things I'm telling you I'm not doing a good job of now, but that really is what matters. And it's not even reaching out necessarily thinking, oh, this will get me business. It's just being in touch. It's surprising. I just got a referral today from someone. It's just being in touch with them, and they think of you and they see an opportunity. So you have a huge captive sales force out there, and you should be in touch with them. That's what I would say.
That's awesome. I love the idea of your captive sales force helping out. Now, I know you just said you're now doing things internationally. Where are your clients located? What kind of people can you work with, and how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I can work with people locally here in Texas. Nationally, I mean, a lot is obviously virtual, at the moment. So that gives me, a lot of opportunities to work with people, as I said, locally, nationally, and internationally. Asia, Europe, UK, beyond. So, and how can they get a hold of me? Will you be posting my website? If not, my website is www.collegeexcellence.com. You will find my information there, or I'd love for you to reach out by phone. I'd love to chat with you. 713-333-9359.
Are there any schools that you're really like, you've done a lot, you've gotten a lot of people into, you really know what they're doing? I know you can probably help with all schools, but are there any that really kind of, whether you love them just because for whatever reason, or any that you kind of specialize in?
So many of the students who come to me because they're probably aiming for top 30, top 50 schools. On the MBA side, probably top 10 or 20. But what I tell people is the process is the same. All the schools are looking for the same thing. It's just a matter of degree, right? So, yeah, but that's sort of my sweet spot in terms of who I generally work with. But obviously, I work with a range of clients. What is important to me in my business is that I actually want for the families to be involved, to the extent that I find that's how students are more successful, is if we're more of a 3-person team. I'm guiding them, the students driving the train, but the parents know what's happening at home. So to the extent we can all be involved, I find that to be helpful for the students.
Gotcha. Cool. So as we begin to wrap up our interview, 2 more questions for you. The first is, what's one tip that you've got? Something that you really just want to share with folks, to help them be successful in getting into the school of their choice?
Yeah, start early. Start early so that you understand what's going to be important. Everything, if you're talking about college, everything you do in college in high school is going to factor in. So start early to educate yourself, even if it's just to reach out and say, hey, Judy, what should I be looking at? What matters? Because I run into so many kids and families who go, I had no idea that one course was going to completely, tank my, you're groaning because it's happened to everyone, right? It was completely going to tank my class rank. Who knew that? But the other thing I tell families all the time is look at graduation rates. This is a big tip. Look at college, look at 4-year graduation rates. Because when you type in graduation rates, if they're not good, they'll be giving you their 6-year rate guaranteed. So just do. But if you look at not for every school, I mean, if
I get you.
rates are good, they won't do that. But if you type in 4-year rate, it might be, you just want to educate yourself, right, about where you're going and what are your odds of making it out in 4 years. I'm sure parents want to do that Google.
Yeah, I would think so, because especially if they're footing the bill, there's a big difference between paying for school for 4 years and paying for school for 6 years.
Yes, it is my personal obsession. Yeah, and a lot of people do change a major 3 times. Yes, gasp. But that's very, very common.
I guess I was lucky. I changed my freshman, in between my freshman and my sophomore year, and I took lots of classes, so I didn't have an issue catching up. But if I changed later in my career, then I could see it would easily be able to take a longer time.
You also attended a school where that was an option. If you're going to a state school, you're kind of locked in. So all those are, that's probably a second tip, which you didn't ask me for. But if you don't know your major, you probably want to go to a school where you can't easily change.
Yeah, I wouldn't even thought of that because I went to a private school. I went to Queen's University in Charlotte, North Carolina,
Right.
small little school.
Yep.
But yeah, because I was a bio major, and for most part, they actually didn't let you declare your major unless you were in, I think, the science and the maths.
Correct.
They would let you declare your major. Otherwise,
but the state schools just the opposite. I mean, if you're going to a big state school, a lot of times you may not be locked in, but it's going to be hard to switch from English to engineering, for example. They just won't have slots, Well, let me restate that. You have to declare your major up front, and it may not be easy to switch majors. So
I guess that makes sense. If you've only got so many professors and so many people in a program, I could see that because they may not accept you to the school.
Yes, there may not be room for you. Correct. So that's really important to take a look at.
Huh, interesting. Wouldn't have thought of. Not that I have kids, though. My little sister-in-law is a senior in high school this year, and now I'm sitting here thinking all this stuff like.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Call me.
Like, yeah, I'm like, has she? And I know she hasn't applied. I know where she kind of wants to go to school. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to have a conversation with her parents this weekend to see where we're at with all this. We want to make sure.
To be fair, and a lot of times, the schools don't. Schools will have you starting later. Your high school may not have you on track. Like, oh, you should start early. Because they don't want you messing up other things that other tests that they have for you to do, to be fair. And not everyone is going to a 4-year college, right? So you're being herded along with some people who are going to community college or the military. So I'm just saying, if you're going to a 4-year college and a selective college, you may need to be on a different track. That would be fair to say.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Last question I have for you. Yes. What's your favorite brew?
And we laughed about this one. It's mint tea, but I'm going to pretend that's very Southern or something. But it's mint tea.
So are you talking hot tea or cold tea?
Hot, and the British way with cream and lots of sugar. And actually, just since you didn't ask, the mint tea is just actually an excuse to drink lots of sugar and cream because that's so socially unacceptable, Tiffany. My husband was like, do you even put any tea in that? The tea is just like a social, a cover up, like, yeah,
it's
really.
So funny because I'll say to my mother-in-law, hey, you want to try this tea? And she's like, do you put sugar in it? I'm like, I just drink my hot tea, like hot tea. Like I don't put anything in it whatsoever. I just drink the tea the way it is. And so it's funny because I haven't tried like a mint tea with cream and sugar. I bet that would be very yummy.
It's really just the cream and sugar. Actually, this is on a comical note too. So I grew up drinking condensed milk, which is, anyway, I thought nothing of it. I mean, we would open it, have the whole can almost like a meal. And when I got to we have no labels on anything, of course not. So when I got to the US, I was like, this is 1,000 calories a can. I'm not kidding. I was like,
no wonder I love this. It's so good.
I was like, hey, bye-bye condensed milk. This is really meant for babies. You can't have it anymore. That was a very sad realization. Labeling is not always a happy thing. I'm just putting that out there.
Sometimes they're starting to put, I know in California they do it where they put calories on everything. More places are starting to do that here in Florida. And I'm like, you put the calories on some of these things, I'm not going to eat them.
Yeah.
Like once I know.
Yeah. But it was shocking. You look at condensed milk, you'd be like, there's 1,000 a serving. It was something else.
Well, that's, looking at skim milk versus whole milk. I mean, whole milk tastes much better, but it's 5 times the calories.
Yeah, but condensed milk is very serious. Like, oh, wow. Okay.
Well, Judy, thank you so very much for being here today with us for our networking at noon. Again, here's her website, collegeexcellence.com. She can work with people all across the globe to help them get into the college of their choice, the MBA program of their choice. I mean, not that she guarantees you, but she can work with you and help you see if it's the right fit. So do reach out to Judy. She can help take care of you. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Great to be here. Thank you, everybody.
And we look forward to seeing you next week. We'll be joined by Dr. Marnita Sandifer, who is here in Tampa, Florida. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Happy networking, y'all.
See you guys.